Uh, Once you finished, you came out with two books. One which was on your life called Mad as You Want to Be.
You had a disc in the back of it, and that was just starting to come in with some of that sort of, magazines that put a disc in their thing and you could have some colour.
The shorter formats really fit in well with your personality, especially your mention of the double Ds.
You just don't know what's happening, and everything's put on hold. Yeah, very frustrating.
And an interesting thing is that in your last test innings, you saved a test match for New Zealand, batting with Nathan Hastel for the last wicket, having 106 runs, and he never played again. You saved a test match with the bat. You never played again in any format.
Yeah, well, and I finished up playing for Auckland. So in terms of the season finishing up, and that's where that changing of the guard was happening, Chandresh. You had Steve Rickson in there. He was on about, Danny, first and foremost, you're our strike bowler. You're taking wickets. You're not batting to save us a test match. You know what I mean? That's not your fundamental role, clearly. So when I went out there and, batted in sunglasses, went out there with Astle, again, nothing to lose. It was just a great time to go there. And so, geez, when I came out after Dooley, again, coming out at 11, the sunglasses on, helmet, looked like the blind man coming out with a white cane. I think we're only about 10 runs ahead. And I came in and had a whole afternoon. So it looked like we were going to get run over. Michael Atherton, I played Lancashire County Cricket with to fill in for Wazim. Had a great time. And so we had a lot of fun, and they were giving me shit. And it was just great fun. It was just cheeky and a lot of laughs out there. And I thought, we'll wrap it up shortly. Morrison's here. He'll be mucking around. He might block. We'll get him out soon. And it just dragged on and on. But back to the point, that was it for me. Yeah, look, I think I took a three for too many. It was about getting people out. And I think you could probably see too that, my fitness was not what it was. I was turning 31. I was 31. And perhaps it was time I can see the others. Jeff Allett was in the wings. A couple of other guys that were there wanting to play more. Get more opportunity, and you could see that Rickson was building this new group of guys with Nash, Chris Cairns, as I say, Jeff Allett coming into the lineup there, Shane O'Connor, another left-arm swinger, just a lot more younger, and that's where the future lay that, the coach was looking for in that time.
Once you finished, you came out with two books. One which was on your life called Mad as You Want to Be, Mad as I Want to Be, and also another book for young cricketers called Junior Cricket Diary. Two contrasting styles, one which was termed as mental by a guy called Richard Whitting at the time, and another a tool for aspiring young cricketers. How did you think about these two books?
Well, the one was the finishing of the career. I sort of knew it looked like it was going to be pretty much ending, and there wasn't a lot of communication going on with New Zealand cricket. And I felt like I was left out in the cold a bit. Mad as I Want to Be could be like Pargle. Am I mad and crazy? Certainly am. But I like to call it mad fun, zany fun. And some thought it was mad and sad. A lot of journos got really stuck and said, Dan, what a sad case, you should have called it Sad as You Want to Be. Well, I'm the one who had to live it and breathe it. I got dropped. I got sacked. No one likes being sacked or dropped. Of course you don't. Losing your job and all that's like too. And so at the time it was a tough gig. And the mad, where I wanted to do it, I wanted to have another couple of titles, but they'd been used. So I couldn't use these other titles from autobiography. Martin Crowe was out on the limb. Kenny Rutherford had just done one before, was a hell of a way to make a living. And so Dennis Rodman, the great basketball player who played for the Chicago Bulls with MJ, he was bad as I want to be because he had that bad reputation. I thought, I'll go with mad. So let's just go with that. And we were running out of ideas, to be honest, about what was coming up. And so, Morrison, you're a little bit madcap and crazy, and you've had this duck tie and duck, testimonial season. So let's go with that. Yeah, no, fine. I'm cool with it. Yeah. So we went with that. And then the other side was the coaching side, which I went into. And then I did my level 3 coaching certificate. Loved giving back. I enjoyed coaching with youngsters, and going to be my forte of pace bowling and do that. And this was just a landscape. No one had done an A5 landscape size diary where youngsters could fill it in. So when you think back to that, I mean, that was very, very late 90s, about 2000, the precursor to digital stuff. Now you think, God, that's so dated. And it is. You had a disc in the back of it, and that was just starting to come in with some of that sort of, magazines and put a disc in their thing, and you could have some color and slide it into your laptop. So it was good. It was just a really neat project to do. The telecommunications company that were the big sponsors for New Zealand cricket helped me there. I knew the American guy there was lovely. We got on well through my sponsored days at Auckland Cricket and put it together. It was great. And a lot of production people do that because of my testimonial season with the magazine. And it seemed to be an opportunity in the marketplace to have a bit of fun, really cost-effective, cheap little thing that has a ring-binding spine on it. You could fold it right round in half, and it was in a landscape form that kids could fill it out, jot down their diary that scored that season there, look at some of the greats on the video that I'd played with and got footage of, and it was just nicely a basic thing mapped out. I used kids as the tutors. They were the models. I used a lot of them. So it was just a nice interactive book for junior cricket, which I really enjoyed doing.
And then you also got into television. You hosted the Cricket Company show on Sky. How did that come about? Was that a natural transition for you?
Yeah, people ask me about, in front of camera and particularly the first few years of IPL and dressing up and putting on gear and leaping around and lifting up a couple of presenters alongside me at IPL matches. Because I'd in between moving from West Auckland, the Wild West, where I played rugby and, bashed each other up a bit, and then moved to the affluent North Shore where my uncle was living. So my parents split up, and my mother took me and my sister to live with my uncle over on the North Shore and with my mother's boyfriend at the time. And we went over there, and you just had more opportunity to do other things. Cricket, sailing, surfing. You're on the North Shore, the affluent North Shore where the beaches are. And if you've been to Auckland, there's the Harbour Bridge, like Sydney, a smaller version of Sydney Harbour Bridge, and you've got those lovely northern beaches. And so I had an opportunity between finishing playing a bit of rugby out in Wild West, which is rugby and athletics or rugby league, and I got into pantomime with my mum. My mum is from a drama background, so a very thespian-orientated background. She used to manage dance companies, ballet companies, modern dance companies. And so I mixed with those theatrical types and went along and did pantomime on a Saturday morning because Mum was running classes and I had to do that and go along. So in a way, it sort of got you up to do theatre sports. What you did, they gave you a little note or a theme. Okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be like Star Trek. Here's the chairs. And you're going to be the lieutenant. You're going to be the captain. And you're going to be the purser and all this. And so you just got into role playing. And so for me, I think being in front of the camera came quite naturally because of that. As an 11 and 12-year-old, when I look back on it now, it's wonderful. It's almost like, say, doing people go to university or postgrad diploma or, whatever, go, do a TAFE thing. I did that when I was 11 and 12 and did more of that and enjoyed that. And I think watching the great Dennis Lilly, his theatrics, and Richard Hadley, those two protagonists, locking horns, allowed me to see that as a youngster. Was very, very inspiring. And for a guy in his formative years, really stood out. So when I look at that, the Cricket Company, which is an idea from Martin Crowe, says, Danny, I've got an idea for you. You're coming in and doing the cricket. And I worked for Rebel Sport. I worked for a sports big wholesale place. They had a big retail. They also had a wholesale end. And I helped run some of the trade shopping nights for about 18 months before I got into the media side things, which I'm still involved with. So I did some sales and marketing when I first finished playing. And it just lent itself, Chandresh, to go into those avenues of, the theatrics of television and radio. Still love radio, doing a bit of radio from time to time. Hosted a radio show, Radio Sport in Auckland, chat talkback show like this in a way, like talk back on phone to people and their opinions and ideas, and everyone has an opinion, of course, with sport radio. So all of that fled and blended beautifully in for doing the Cricket Company with a bit of radio and a bit of commentary at the grounds.
And you fitted in right very well because of all this background you've just spoken about. With the shorter formats, you are very much in demand in the shorter formats as a commentator. No one will forget your Haka with Navjot Sindhu. Your Sardar impression was was a bit controversial to say the least, but the shorter formats really fit in well with your personality, especially your mention of the double Ds.
Right, yeah. Well, when you think about 2020 coming along, where it has, and that World Cup in 07, then the IPL starting in 08, is it like a natural progression of the game having to evolve and, of course, encompass a broader spectrum of fan base? And to survive, you've got to do that. And other codes have done that. Tennis has even, done that with the old boys circuit and golf and the old masters playing in an old circuit, giving different options. And I think with 2020, which was played in England, we used to all play it in the twilight because it was post-work and you could start the game at 6 o'clock in the evening or 6:30 and you had the twilight until about 9 o'clock in England because of the sun setting so late. And so, you played in those little mini leagues and then all of a sudden exploded into what it is today. And I mean, you've been around and come to New Zealand a bit, Chandresh, over the years, and the late great Martin Crowe with his cricket match, which is 4 lots of 10. Now, he wanted to encompass the thing of test cricket with the 4 innings. So if Virat Kohli got out in the first 10 overs early for naught, you could see him bat again. So the fans were like, like you do when you're playing in Mumbai all those years ago and the great Sachin Tendulkar got out early. You could hear a pin drop, or Virat gets out early, or whoever the big star batter is, and you can just deathly silence. Crowe's game of max cricket, I think, has got another hybrid to go with 2020. I think it can most definitely go to that of 4 lots of 10. Turn around the overs quickly. You'll get specialist fielders come in. It'll get a little bit even more Americanized. Crowe had the zones because he wanted you to hit straight. We love the guys who play 360. The modern game's gone that way, as we know, Chandresh. Reverse, dill scoop, flicking, inside out, you name it. Score anywhere. But Crowe wanting to reward beautiful straight driving back over the bowler's head or a spinner instead of trying to cow corner slogging or go inside out and play a reverse sweep, whatever, which is great. No, love them all. But he wanted to reward guys playing straight and true, which is that lovely little straight and true. So 6 became 12, 4 became 8, as we know. And it was in a zone there under lights as an entertainment package. So when I look at my style of being and lots of energy and hype, I think it really did bode well for me. It suited me. And I think with the crowds, again, a no-brainer. When you get a full house and the noise, we as commentators feed off that massively. So with all this sad coronavirus going on, the COVID-19, I've just been doing some of that in the Pakistan Super League where there's nobody there. We've just got the cameraman and a few dignitaries and the ball boys who are lucky to be there in this empty stadium. Very difficult for us. You can still get up a bit, but it hasn't got the same vibe clearly that the fans, and that's what the game, any sport's about, as we know, Chandresh. The game is about the fans, and without them and empty stadiums, very, very difficult. As an aside note, I just heard the great Jeff Wilson, All Black, on a Twitter feed chatting to a journalist in New Zealand, and he said, no brainer. As athletes, and he was a former All Black winger, star player, we would rather be playing in empty stadiums than not playing at all. That is for sure. He said that as categorically, as an athlete, this is what you do. You'd rather be playing behind closed doors than not playing at all. So it's a fascinating dynamic. Then from a broadcast perspective, like, holy heck, this is going to be tough. And it was. And we did, I think we did 4 games over that weekend before they called it quits in the PSL. So, very frustrating, massively frustrating to have empty stadia. But therein lies another challenge, as guys that give of ourselves and love the fan base and want it, this unique landscape, what can you do? I mean, sensibly, health rules, we know that. You've got to wait till it calms down. I'll be fascinated, and so will you and everyone else around the game or any sport, but particularly our game of cricket. What's going to happen? The time zones, can they fit these things in? Are they going to play, let's say, because we've got time now, at ICC World T20 here in Australia behind closed doors. I think, conceivably, is that going to happen? Who knows? I mean, that's not till late October, so it could still happen like that. It's just so frustrating when you know how great the IPL is. The CPL in the Caribbean is so unique. I'm very blessed to work on both, and I'd be very sad, particularly now just with the timings. We just don't know what's happening, and everything's put on hold. Yeah, very frustrating.
Was it easy or difficult to get Navjot Sidhu to do the haka?
Oh, that, yes, on the show. That was a lot of fun too. And it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? So the first 10 years on Sony, and now, of course, it's gone to Star, and they're a lot more analytical. And some of it say, well, have they gone very serious? But then they've gone into more, that they're more about the cricket and the stats and the graphics, and they love that. And the thing that Star are probably fortunate over Sony when they had it for 10 years is they've now got a lot of ex-players who've played in the first decade of IPL. Now the Kevin Petersons, right, Matty Hayden, Brett Lees, all the guys that, Mr. Cricket, Hussey brothers, they commentate in it. Scotty Styrus in studio, all that, Dean Jones. So if you think of the guys that have played IPL that are now pundits and commentating or in the studio, Star have that dynamic. Whereas with Sony, it was more about Bollywood meets cricket. And I loved that. And you had the glamour girls and your Archana Vijay and Shabani hosting it, sideline. Just Gaurav Kapoor, loved him. And he's a class act. Old Sammy sideline. And we'd dress up and do stuff and imitate, Amitabh Bachchan and do crazy stuff. And we loved it, and for me personally, I love the theatrics of that. That suited me. Didn't suit the others. But now, the seriousness of the cricket a bit more with the studio gig, that's just, the game again, taking a different involvement and it evolving differently. So, saying it's not right or wrong, it's just, again, evolving and different. So, the IPL, what a gig. I mean, it's just such a big beast. And it's just so annoying what's happening.
I read, I did a bit of research before we started this chat, and I read about the fact that the move from New Zealand to Australia came at a difficult time for you. And when I look at your on-screen personality and see how much energy you bring on air, it's difficult to believe that someone like you has gone through so much, and then the move to Australia happened. Can you briefly talk about that move from New Zealand to Australia, and for someone like you, especially who's an extrovert personality, to be going through all that in that space? How was that phase in your life?
Look, I've talked about it at length, particularly down here a bit more so in Australia, New Zealand, Australasia, because I live here and I'm from New Zealand. Massive ripple effect, Chandresh. I was just talking about it the other day, and there's so much going on with men's health, men speaking up about depression, the black dog. There's friends of my wife's and other publishers would like me to tell my story around depression, getting heavily involved in drinking around the time that whole World T20, first couple of IPLs, very tough for me, losing my sister like that to suicide. And you have no control over that. It's a bit like this coronavirus. A lot of just got no control over major things in our lives. So there was a scenario that really did shatter a lot of our worlds. I'm talking about the Morrison tribe. And I think it was just fortunate through my wife's connections here north of Brisbane to really bring our young children over and get some sunshine back, and particularly for Kim and I in our lives. Yet the move there didn't all bode that well for me. I clearly hadn't dealt with my emotions enough, my depression, all of that really. And I think the shift from New Zealand, whilst it was great and I think it was needed, there was certain downturns to it. And then getting back on the circuit, because I got off that a bit, going back to radio and selling some advertising back in that time of 05, 06 when my sister did die. And I was around there for about 18 months, nearly 2 years before we moved to Australia. And it was great to be around home, but I could see, Kim, my wife, could see it was difficult for us. And it was just impacting on us. and it probably would have, perhaps would have cost me my marriage had I stayed in New Zealand and was swamped by that. I didn't help myself in terms of getting on the wagon and just drowning my sorrows and smashing alcohol and out late and just crazy, stupid stuff. So when I look back on that time, I'm grateful I've come through the other side and had really great therapy. We had a French woman in her mid-80s. She's now in her mid-90s. Around that time of late 09, 10, 11, around that time for me to be able to talk and get things off your chest and do it together with Kim and I and then separately on our own was very, very uplifting and completely important to me at that given time. So letting people in probably for the first time that are going to watch your YouTube interview of me here, there are lots of times when they don't see a lot of us as performers behind closed doors. We're tired, we're down, there could be something, drama happening at home, and invariably it is when you have teenage children that I couldn't be around for. Times you just can't help as a human being feeling a little bit guilty that you're not there to help. But at the same time, in a basic form, Chandresh, that, as hunter-gatherers, the men, peeling it right back to caveman days, we went out to hunt and gather. It's a bit like us going out to work and gather and put food on the table and pay bills. And it's a bit like, it is like that, whether we're broadcasters, salesmen on the road, merchant bankers moving, working for pharmaceutical companies, whatever you're doing, you're moving around. We just move everywhere, don't we? So, there's other fathers that spend a lot of time away from home. I'm just grateful, I think, to the extended family and networks here work well. So from being very high and energetic of a T20 game, you'll understand, and people watching this, that it's difficult for us to go straight to bed. So, in terms of me kicking back, relaxing with just a little quiet red old not to, just calming my farm. I'm now, since the middle of February, I've been told through a doctor's report, let's give alcohol a rest for a while because of your history and depression and carving it up, as it were. I'm not drinking alcohol as I stopped in the middle of February, and now here we are, middle of April. I'll do that right through to the end of July and just have this cleanse. And I'm, again, Chandresh, very lucky in terms of my wife's tribe and involvement, in terms of healthy people around and what they preach and what they eat and when they eat it, and all that thing of keto diets or paleo diets and high-end meat ones or high-end vegetarian ones, and just trying different things. So I'm very open to trying like that, different stuff like that. Again, for mental health, I think for me, people ask me, "Oh, you stay in quite good order. You're quite fit and you look after yourself." I said, I think mentally for us as humans, we need to move. For us, being grateful to have 2 arms and 2 legs functioning, to go for a run, to do a swim, go to the gym, to skateboard, to ride a bike, whatever it may be, is your thing, is to be spoiled to get out, even just go for a walk around the lake or, walk around the neighborhood or whatever, walk the dog, do that. I think this time of COVID-19, I think is pulling it back to say what is really important. What, all the other external materialistic carry on, family, your health is your greatest asset. If they, you can have all the money in the world and all the riches in the world, if you're sick as a dog and then you could end up falling over, God forbid, and die, or be very ill and live with an illness for a long time, or you haven't looked after your health, well, what's it all about? What's the point? So I'm very blessed, Chandresh, in terms of, and then looking and exploring the Sufism of my mother. I'm not really a religious person who needs to pray every day or goes to a mosque or goes to a shrine. My belief in that is your food and getting out and exercising and doing that with my wife. We're out and about with my son or daughter going for a run, walk, whatever. But clearly for me, the mental health thing of moving and doing some sort of fitness, and having gratitude for the simple things like food, eating quality food, not indulging and abusing yourself now, and just having a really good, simple outlook, and being grateful, massively grateful.
Did the owners at Delhi uh, Capitals discuss with you before they changed the name from Delhi Daredevils to Delhi Capitals because they robbed you of of a moment
double
on television?
D's.
Yeah.
And loved it. You know, I should have paid you. People said, Jenny, you know, you should have trademarked it. You know, ridiculous. But a lot of fun. You're right. With the double D's, it just flowed. So, and even the double R's. But as we all know, the double D's just flows better. It's like B's and C's, and you know what I mean. It just rolls, doesn't it? So, what a shame. The DC's, it's not quite the same, is it, as the double D's? And those from Delhi and the double D's loving it. So I missed that a bit. You're right. In terms of calling it and commentating it, it's not the same, Chandresh.
Danny, there's one more thing that you do, and that is you are involved in this fight against meningitis. And am I right in saying that you contribute to that fight against meningitis? How close is this appeal that you're putting your might into it?
Yes, I did a charity boxing thing before I left New Zealand, and that was for the Meningitis Trust. And when Jake was born, he had about 3 lumbar punches, the spinal tap. In fact, I was in India. How's that? I was doing the New Zealand tour of '99, and there was a scare that he may have meningitis, and he was only 3.5 weeks old. And so it was very tough for Kim to take him into the Auckland Starship Hospital. So that's where, in terms of the Meningitis Trust, was born from or spawned from my involvement. And it was mainly in New Zealand, to be fair, and doing a lot of that whilst the charity for the boxing was great fun. My nose has never been quite the same. Of course, it was, you think at school or a bit of rugby or just playing in the rugby as a youngster, getting your nose broken. I mean, I had my nose broken a few times with boxing, just silly. And it's never been quite the same. People laugh, because one gets blocked off quite regularly in the septum. The surgeon said, look, we can fix it up. So then we've moved to Australia. So that was middle of 05, and then I moved here, late September 06. So I might actually have that done later, but that through the Meningitis Trust, it's nice you put your body on the line and give to that. It was just nice to be able to do that. And really, it's such a cherished time, particularly for me and my family, because it's relevant to Jake being so young and could have died. But thank goodness for, children's hospitals and really top-class surgeons and doctors.
Finally, Danny, can I have one message from you for people watching this, your fans, on one thing they can do to be active during this COVID-19 phase, one thing that they can do to stay active and be safe during this period?
Well, I think the great thing, and I'm telling you guys, and it don't really have to, because India tends to be one of the homes of it, doesn't it? The subcontinent. Let's dress it up that way. Subcontinent, in terms of having yoga. And I think those that are into yoga before COVID-19, very spoiled, stretching, moves, that range of exercise and movement that's so graceful and requires strength, stamina, and all those things. For me, I think the message for at home for people, if they've got room and they have those rolled out, those easy foam mats or just a carpet, whatever, just somewhere that's nice and easy, flat, to go through that stretching routine, and then those other crossed over, what I do is my legs are at 90 degrees and I do sit-ups. I have a hanging bar at home that you fit into your doorway. It's in a contraption there. A lot of people don't even know I had that. But even the staircases, we can get underneath the staircase and jump up and hang on if the stairwell's exposed, if it's not closed in and fitted in. You do that a lot, particularly in the Caribbean hotels. Leap up and just hang, release your spine and lift your knees up and move. Another great one I take on tour, Chan, is a skipping rope. And that's really from that meningitis charity boxing trust fight we did in July 05. I've taken a skipping rope a lot with me, and that's another thing you can do in your hotel room, or you got out of your hotel and just where we were, or even to the gym. But if you don't have a gym and you're at home in your courtyard, you don't need a lot of room. Skipping ropes are great, and you get the heart rate up, and you're doing something that's getting your movement happening. You are lifting. Whether you do your 2 feet together or you can do the good technique of the foot to toe, heel to toe technique, doesn't matter. If you're not a great skipper, it doesn't matter. Just get out and do it. Feet together, just jumping on the spot, doing your skipping, and keeping that simple where you've got confined spaces. I get that. And I get that no more than understanding in India where you're in apartments, people in big towns, ain't got a lot of room. And so that whole thing of just lying down, a few sit-ups, a few stretches, few push-ups. I love doing push-ups. You can, as you say, you can do the bent knee version for the females if it's a bit tough, even for the blokes if we're a bit older like I am. And I love doing them on my fists, press-ups. Again, heart rate up, you're moving stuff, your shoulders, your chest, you're doing some press-ups, all of those simple little things in your house that get you moving. If you can't go out and it's pouring with rain or it's getting, you know, so hot, as we know in India's getting hot, we're getting cooler here down under, that you're just in a confined space, but do something. Skipping rope, for me, the winner.
Thanks a lot, Danny. It was great chatting with you and to really know the human side of Danny Morrison, the commentator par excellence, especially in the T20 format and the shorter format. Really enjoyable chatting with you. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Love it, Sam. Well done, Chandresh. Love you, mate.
Thanks a lot.
Please remember to like, share and subscribe the channel, and you can also donate and support the channel via the links mentioned below this video.